Many women will tell you they want a man who is caring, a man who is patient, a man who always listens, a man who never argues, a man who puts her first every single time. If you ask enough women what they're looking for, you'll hear those qualities mentioned again and again. And on the surface, they sound completely reasonable, but here's where many men make a mistake. They hear those words and assume being a good man means saying yes to everything, tolerating every behavior, avoiding conflict at all costs, and constantly trying to keep a woman happy. Then they become confused when the very woman who said she wanted a good man slowly loses respect for them. So today I'm going to share 5 reasons why many women don't actually want the kind of good man most men become. Before you disagree with me, stay with me until the end because this isn't about women hating good men. It's about one of the biggest misunderstandings men have about female psychology. And understanding it could completely change the way you approach relationships. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Issabela, and on this channel, we explore female psychology, relationship dynamics, and the hidden truths that help men build stronger, healthier, and more respected relationships. Music. If that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe because every week we uncover the things many people think about, but music very few are willing to say out loud. Now, let's begin with the first reason. As a woman, let me tell you something many women will never explain clearly. Being a good man is not the same as being an agreeable man. Those are two completely different things. One thing many women are genuinely bad at is making the right decisions when emotions completely take over. We can see something that is clearly wrong and still feel tempted to do it anyway. Sometimes our emotions become louder than our judgment. That's exactly why many women don't actually need a man who agrees with every emotional decision they make. They need a man who can calmly look them in the eyes and say, "No, you're not doing that. It's a bad idea." Ironically, that no often earns more respect than 100 yeses. A man who is afraid to disagree because he want to upset a woman may believe he's being loving, but many women eventually see something very different. Music. They see a man who is afraid of losing their approval. And the moment a woman believes you're afraid to stand on your own convictions, music, the way she looks at you quietly begins to change. The reason is actually very simple. Many women are looking for a man who can lead, not because they want to be controlled, but because they know emotions can sometimes cloud good judgment. Every woman has experienced moments where her feelings told music her to do one thing while her logical mind was telling her something completely different. That's part of being human. This is why many women naturally admire a man who isn't afraid to say, "No, I don't think music that's the right decision." Notice I didn't say a controlling man. There's a huge difference. A controlling man tells a woman what to do because he wants power over her. A confident man tells her no because he's thinking about the consequences, even if she doesn't like hearing it in that moment. Many men are terrified of saying no because they think disagreement will push a woman away. So instead, they agree with everything she says. They support every decision she makes, music, even the ones they know are wrong. They avoid difficult conversations because they're afraid she'll become upset, angry, or even leave the relationship. Ironically, music, that's exactly where many men begin losing a woman's respect. As a woman, I can tell you this: respect grows when a man has convictions. It grows when he can calmly stand on his principles without becoming emotional, defensive, or aggressive. It grows when his decisions are based on wisdom instead of fear. If a woman becomes angry simply because you respectfully disagreed with her, don't immediately assume you've done something wrong. Sometimes you're simply discovering whether she's capable of respecting a man who thinks for himself. Because the truth is, a woman who genuinely respects you doesn't expect you to agree with everything she says. Music. She expects you to be strong enough to tell her the truth, even when it's difficult to hear. And that's what leads us to the second reason many men completely misunderstand women. The second reason many women don't want the kind of good man most men become is because many men misunderstand what women mean when they say, "I want a man who cares about me." They hear that sentence and immediately assume it means they should tolerate every mood swing, fix every emotional problem, and make it their full-time job to keep her happy. That is not what most women mean. As a woman, Let me tell you something many women will never say directly. We don't want a man who loses himself trying to manage our emotions. If I'm having a bad day, I don't need you to panic with me. If I'm angry, I don't need you begging me to calm down. If I'm acting out of emotion, I don't need you abandoning your own peace just to make me feel better. What many women genuinely respect is emotional stability. A man who can calmly say, "When you're ready to talk respectfully, we'll talk. Until then, take the time you need." That kind of man immediately communicates something powerful. He communicates that he knows himself. Music. He communicates that his peace isn't controlled by another person's emotions. Many men think constantly chasing a woman whenever she's upset proves how much they care. Unfortunately, it often communicates something completely different. It tells her that your emotional state depends on hers. Over time, that becomes exhausting. A woman wants to know that the man she's with can remain calm when she's emotional. She wants to know that he won't lose his boundaries just because she's having a difficult moment. Caring for a woman is important, but sacrificing your self-respect every time her music emotions change isn't love. It's emotional dependence. And many women lose respect for a man the moment they realize he no longer knows where she ends and where he begins. The biggest mistake many men make is believing that caring more will eventually fix music everything. So, when a woman becomes distant, they call more. When she's upset, they apologize even when they've done nothing wrong. When she pulls away, they chase harder. They convince themselves that if they just love her enough, understand her enough, or remain patient long enough, she'll eventually become the woman they know she can be. But that's rarely how attraction works. As a woman, I can tell you that many women don't respect a man who abandons himself every time they're having a mood swing. In fact, the more you make her emotions your responsibility, the more likely you are to lose yourself in the process. You stop protecting your peace. You stop protecting your boundaries. You stop protecting your confidence. Before long, your entire life revolves around making sure she's okay. That isn't what most women are looking for. A woman feels safest with a man who knows exactly where he stands. Music. A man who can say, "I care about you, but I won't lose myself trying to fix what only you can fix." That's the kind of man many women admire because he isn't reacting emotionally. He's responding with maturity. Many women will even adjust their own behavior when they realize the man they're with isn't easily shaken by every emotional storm. Not because he's cold or uncaring, but because he refuses to let temporary emotions dictate the direction of the relationship. The truth is, a woman doesn't want to become your entire emotional world. Music. She wants a man who has his own emotional foundation, a man who remains steady when life becomes difficult. Music. And once a woman realizes that your peace doesn't disappear every time her mood changes, she begins seeing you as someone she can genuinely rely on rather than someone she constantly has music to emotionally manage. The third reason many women don't want the kind of good man most men become is because many women deeply respect a man who is willing to walk away. I know that sounds uncomfortable, but stay with me. I'm not talking about a man who threatens to leave after every argument. I'm not talking about someone who uses silence, manipulation, or emotional games to control a woman. That's insecurity, not strength. Music. I'm talking about a man who knows his value well enough to leave a relationship that no longer has respect. As a woman, let me tell you something many women won't openly admit. The moment a woman realizes that you will never leave, no matter how badly she music behaves, the entire relationship begins to change. If she disrespects you and you stay, if she keeps crossing your boundaries and you stay, if she keeps making excuses for the same behavior and you stay, she slowly begins believing that there is nothing she can do that will make you walk away. And once that happens, many men unintentionally teach a woman that their music standards don't really matter. Many men think staying through everything proves love. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it simply proves that you're afraid of being alone. Women can often tell the difference. A man who knows he can leave doesn't stay because he has no other options. He stays because he chooses to. That is what makes his commitment valuable. Ironically, that is also the kind of man many women find easiest music to respect. He doesn't beg to be loved. He doesn't negotiate for basic music respect. He doesn't remain where he's constantly being dishonored. He knows exactly what he brings into a relationship. And because he knows his value, he also knows when it's time to quietly walk away. That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. And many women admire that far more than men realize. But there's another side to this that many men never think about. A woman doesn't just respect a man because he can walk away. She respects him because she knows he doesn't need the relationship to survive. There's a huge difference between a man who stays because he genuinely wants to music and a man who stays because he's afraid he'll never find another woman. As a woman, I can tell you that women notice this much faster than men realize. We pay attention to how you react when things don't go your way. Do you immediately panic? Do you start begging? Do you start negotiating for attention? Or do you remain calm because you know your worth isn't determined by whether one woman chooses you or not? This is where many men lose themselves. They make one woman the center of their entire world. They slowly stop seeing their friends, they abandon their hobbies, they lose focus on their purpose. Their happiness music begins depending entirely on how one woman feels about them that day. Without realizing it, they've handed over all of their emotional power. That is never attractive. A woman feels much safer with a man who has options in life. I'm not talking about having 10 different women waiting for you. I'm talking about having an abundant mindset. A man whose life is full of purpose, goals, friendships, family, and self-respect music is far less likely to tolerate constant disrespect because he knows losing one relationship doesn't mean losing himself. Ironically, that's the kind of man many women value the most. Music. Not because he's trying to make her jealous, but because she knows he's choosing to be with her every single day. That choice carries far more weight than a man who stays simply because he believes he has nowhere else to go. The fourth reason many women don't want the kind of good man most men become is because many men confuse having boundaries with enforcing boundaries. Those are not the same thing. Music. Almost every man says he has standards. Almost every man says he won't tolerate disrespect. Almost every man says he knows his worth, but the real question is this: what happens when those boundaries are actually tested? Music. As a woman, let me tell you something many women will never say out loud. A boundary that has no consequence is just words. If you tell a woman, I don't tolerate disrespect, but every time she disrespects you, nothing changes. She eventually stops taking your words, music, seriously. Not because she's naturally trying to disrespect you, but because you've shown her that your boundaries aren't music real. This is why actions will always speak louder than promises. Many women, sometimes without even realizing it, pay attention to whether a man follows through on what he says. If music you tell her honesty matters, then dishonesty should have consequences. If you tell her respect matters, then repeated disrespect music should also have consequences. Otherwise, your words slowly begin to lose their value. This doesn't mean becoming controlling or looking for reasons to punish a woman. Music. It means respecting yourself enough to protect the standards that make a healthy relationship possible. Music. A woman cannot consistently respect a man who refuses to respect his own boundaries. The moment she realizes she can cross every line you've drawn without losing you, the relationship begins changing in ways many men never expect. Respect doesn't disappear overnight. It disappears one ignored boundary at a time. And once that pattern becomes normal, rebuilding that respect becomes much harder than protecting it from the beginning. The problem is that many men stop at setting boundaries. They tell a woman what they will and won't accept. But when those boundaries are crossed, fear takes over. They're afraid she'll get angry. They're afraid she'll cry. They're afraid she'll leave. So instead of standing by what they said, music, they begin making excuses for behavior they promised themselves they would never tolerate. As a woman, let me tell you something that many women understand instinctively. We pay far more attention to what you do than what you say. You can tell a woman 100 times that disrespect is unacceptable, but if she repeatedly disrespects you and nothing changes, your words slowly become meaningless. Not because she hates you, but because you've taught her that your boundaries only exist when things are easy. This is exactly why consequences matter. A consequence isn't about punishment, it's about consistency. If you tell a woman, I won't accept this behavior, then your actions must match your words. Otherwise, every future boundary becomes weaker than the last. Many men think they're keeping the peace by overlooking disrespect, emotional manipulation, or repeated excuses. In reality, they're quietly teaching a woman that she can continue doing the same thing without ever losing them. Over time, that changes how she sees the relationship. Music. The women who genuinely respect a man aren't usually the ones who get away with everything. They're often the ones who know exactly where the line is because that man has shown calmly and consistently that his standards are real. That's why respecting yourself is so important. When a man follows through on his principles without shouting, threatening, or becoming emotional, he communicates something every healthy relationship needs. He communicates that his values are not negotiable. And that kind of quiet consistency earns a level of respect that words alone never will. The fifth and final reason many women don't want the kind of good man most men become is because too many men mistake love for self-sacrifice. Somewhere along music the way, many men were taught that loving a woman means making her the center of their entire world. They believe that if they love her enough, give her enough attention, constantly reassure her, and always put her needs before their own, she will naturally appreciate them more. But that's not how attraction usually works. As a woman, let me tell you something many women will never explain. A woman wants to be an important part of your life, but she doesn't want to become your entire life. The moment a man abandons his purpose, neglects his friendships, stops pursuing his goals, and begins revolving his entire existence around one woman, something quietly changes. She no longer sees the man she was originally attracted to. She sees someone who has slowly lost himself trying to keep her. That is why so many men become confused. Music. They think they're proving their love, while the woman begins feeling suffocated instead of secure. The healthiest relationships are built between two complete people, not one complete person and one person who has lost his identity. A man should still have goals that excite him. He should still spend time improving music himself. He should still value his peace, his purpose, and the life he worked so hard to build before the relationship ever began. Ironically, that's exactly what keeps the relationship healthy because a woman knows she's sharing your life, not becoming responsible for creating it. Many women don't fall in love with a man because he makes them his entire world. They fall in love with the man who has a meaningful world of his own and chooses to invite them into it. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to make one thing very clear. This video was never about telling men to become rude, controlling, or emotionally unavailable. Unfortunately, that's how some people will misunderstand this message. That's not what I've been saying at all. The point is much simpler than that. Many women don't reject good men because they're good. They reject men who confuse goodness with weakness. There is a huge difference. A good man can still have boundaries. A good man can still say no. A good man can still walk away when he's being disrespected. A good man can still lead, make difficult decisions, and protect his own peace without becoming cruel. As a woman, I can honestly tell you that those qualities don't push healthy women away. They attract music them. Think about everything we've discussed today. Women don't respect a man because he agrees with everything they say. They respect a man who has convictions. Women don't admire a man who loses himself trying to fix every emotion. They admire a man who remains emotionally grounded. Women don't value a man because he tolerates endless disrespect. Music. They value a man who respects himself enough to leave when respect no longer exists. Music. And women don't take boundaries seriously unless the man setting them is willing to stand by them. Music. That is what many women actually mean when they say they want a good man. So, don't stop being kind. Don't stop being generous. Don't stop caring about the woman you love. Just don't sacrifice your confidence, your self-respect, your purpose, or your identity in the process. The strongest relationships are built when both people respect each other, not when one person loses themselves trying to keep the other happy. What are your thoughts on these 5 reasons? Have you ever made any of these mistakes, or have you experienced them in your own relationship? I genuinely love to hear your perspective. So, let me know in the comments below because I read as many of them as I can. If this video helped you see female psychology from a different perspective, make sure you hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe with notifications turned on so you never miss another discussion. Once again, my name is Issabela. Stay confident, protect your self-respect, build relationships that are based on mutual respect, and I'll see you in the next video.